In the previous video, I covered the scriptures that detail the promise of Israel's restoration. Now we'll cover the scriptures that tell us when this promise will be fulfilled. Point 3. The prophecies of restoration in the last days. Now here's the part most churches never touch. Isaiah 11 says the Most High will gather Israel a second time. Isaiah 11 through 12, then it will be in that day, referring to the last days, that the Most High will again acquire the second time with his hand the remnant of his people, who will remain from Assyria, Egypt, Pathros, Ethiopia, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and from the coastlands of the sea. And he will lift up a standard for the nations and assemble the banished ones of who? Of Israel, and will gather the scattered of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Again, in the last days, he will lift up a standard for the nations and assemble the banished ones of Israel and gather the scattered of Judah. And Jeremiah tells us exactly what those scriptures in Isaiah mean. Jeremiah 16:14 through 15 says this: "The days are coming when people will no longer say, 'As Yahuwah lives who brought Israel out of Egypt,' but instead it will say, 'As Yahuwah lives who brought Israel from the lands of the north and from all the countries where he had driven them.'" Think about that. The first deliverance was Egypt. Remember, Pharaoh let my people go? He literally parted the sea. I'm sure people who aren't familiar with scripture have at least heard of the parting of the Red Sea. That was Israel's deliverance from Egypt. That was the biggest event in Israel's history. But Jeremiah explains the final deliverance, the one from all nations, will be so great, so worldwide, so undeniable that people won't even talk about that deliverance from Egypt anymore. That has never happened yet. This is the end times restoration. This proves that the scattering was global, the awakening is global, and the final gathering will be global. And it involves the actual descendants of Israel, not a spiritual group, not a replacement. Zephaniah 3:19 through 20 says, "Behold, again at that time," talking about the last days, "I will undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you, for I will make you a name and a praise among all people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith Yahuwah." Amos 9:14 through 15 says, "And I will bring again the captivity of my people." Of who? Of Israel. "And they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. And I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled up out their land, which I have given them, saith Yahuwah." Think of a people who've been pulled out their land. Just ponder on that for a second. But this hasn't happened yet. Contrary to popular belief of what's going on that so-called land over there, the true restoration has not happened yet. This is future prophecy. This is end time prophecy. Point 4. Now, many churches teach that Israel was rejected and replaced by the church as a spiritual Israel. But none will show you that in Scripture. You won't find it. Instead, we do see in Romans 11:1, it literally says, I say then, has God cast away his people? Certainly not. Romans 11:26 goes on to say, and so all Israel will be saved, as it is written. Ezekiel 37:28, the nations will know I am Yahuwah when I sanctify Israel forever. These scriptures show no evidence of replacement, only restoration. Point 5. Even in Revelation, the final prophetic book, Israel is still Israel. Revelation 7:4-8 shows 144,000 sealed from the 12 tribes, named one by one. Why would time and space be taken in Revelation to name each tribe of Israel if just any old body who wants to be Israel can claim to be? There's no replacement mentioned, no church mentioned. So we know actual Israel is mentioned in 4-8. But if we go into verse 9, this is where the Gentiles are mentioned, included in that great multitude. It reads, after hearing those 144,000 that were sealed in the previous verses, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude. This is a completely different group of people outside those 144,000 from Israel. Again, was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. So again, no replacements, just those from the tribes of Israel and those who cleaved to them, as mentioned in Isaiah 14:1. Isaiah tells us that there will be foreigners, strangers, Gentiles, who will cleave to Israel. It reads, Yahuwah will have compassion on Jacob once again. He will choose Israel and will settle them in their own land. Foreigners, Gentiles, strangers will join them and unite with the descendants of Jacob. It doesn't say replace, it clearly says unite. So, if your church never taught you the restoration, they haven't taught you prophecy. You cannot understand prophecy until you understand Israel's restoration. It's what the whole Bible is actually about. Israel's birth, Israel's disobedience, Israel's captivity, and finally, Israel's restoration. Which is why most have no idea what the Bible is teaching or how to read it, because their churches are skipping parts and presenting things out of context. Everything the Most High is getting ready to do in these last days starts with true Israel waking up, remembering who they are, and being restored. And it's happening all around you. And this is why so many are against the awakening, because they know it means judgment for the nation to oppress them. It means the tail becomes the head and the head becomes the tail. It means the end of Esau's world and the beginning of Jacob's. Scripture tells us Israel would be a people scattered and afflicted, not elevated by power or governments, not those who have to force their legitimacy. True Israel will be restored by Yah. Shalom.